Shalom, everyone. Today we'll talk about a question that the rabbis had about a gun or a sword being considered a tachshit, a piece of jewelry. So the Mishnah in Shabbat 63a says, "Lo yatzeh ish lo b'sayf v'lo b'keshet v'lo b'tris v'lo b'alav v'lo b'romach." Five different names that are mentioned for different weapons. And so a person should not go from a private domain to a public domain in any with carrying any of these weapons. And if he did, he's supposed to bring a chatat, a sin offering, which is for shogeg, and for mezid. As far as I know, there's no atonement in the regular sense. And Rabbi Eliezer in the same Mishnah says, "Tachshitinan lo," so it's considered like jewelry, and so just like other ornaments you're allowed to carry, like we talked about yesterday, also a gun or a sword should be allowed. And then Chachamim say, "Enam ela lignai," the purpose of a sword is for a derogatory thing, for something reprehensible, as it says in Isaiah, "V'chitatu charatan leitim," the most famous verse in the Torah, as far as I know. Apparently, my kids were at the United Nations building, and it's translated to over 70 languages. In the entrance there, that they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nations will not rise sword against nation, neither will they learn war anymore. So, yes, that is a beautiful prophecy, but it hasn't happened yet. So the question of Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim is, what do we do in between the time of this and the Mashiach? So, is it considered a proper ornament or not? And I don't know how many people actually saw swords. I was in a few old castles where they put them on display. Some of them are carved with very beautiful things, and it's hard to even imagine that they were used to actually kill somebody. But guns aren't nice. And the second question that we have, besides a man going out on Shabbat, is a woman allowed to carry a weapon? So, under the circumstances, especially in Israel, the rabbis said that you're allowed to carry a gun in places that are dangerous. So now the only question is about Shabbat. But before that, let's research a little bit about one of the most famous ideas in the Talmud about Ruth. So the Torah says in Parasha Teitze that one of the reasons why we're not allowed to marry a Moabite and an Ammonite is because they did not meet you with food and water on your journey after you left Egypt, and because they hired Balaam, son of Beor. So even though Bilam is really probably the main reason, Hashem mentions this idea of Lo kidmu etchem, that they did not approach you, and so Doeg Adomi, the chieftain of King Shaul, said, if so, say that it is prohibited for only an Egyptian man to enter into the congregation. Second part, since it is the way of a man to go forth to meet guests, but it is not the way of a woman to go forth, females were not included in this prohibition. Doeg countered, still the men should have gone forth to meet the men, and the women should have gone to meet the women. And Abner was silent, and that was the discussion about if we can accept people from Moab and Ammon. And of course, Boaz ruled that it says Moavi velo Moavit. Usually we don't differentiate. Just because something in the Torah is in the masculine doesn't mean that it doesn't include the feminine. But our Parasha actually talks about the difference between men and women, and what their involvement or not involvement was in hiring Balaam and sinning with the licentiousness and all the other things that are included in that. And so we do rule that Moabite women are allowed. Last but not least, the question is about a woman carrying a gun. And so if I can see this properly, it's Rav Mordechai Eliyahu. It's not opening the right page. Yeah, so the question also included another law, which is in Parashat Teitze, which is the question about lo yilbash. So lo yilbash is actually one of the only laws in the Torah that repeats itself twice, one for men and one for women. A woman is not allowed to wear men's clothing, and a man is not allowed to wear women's clothing. And the Rishonim were arguing if the reason is because of Gilui Arayot, that it will cross-dressing is something that people who act immodestly do, or is it because of something else? And then the question is about a handgun, because a handgun is not something sexual at all, and it's for self-defense, and so that's why Rav Mordechai Eliyahu said that if there is danger and it's always there, then there is no prohibition of lo yilbash. And so, last but not least, nesiat neshek inan miyuchet legvarim. So, too far. So the Ramah in chapter 182, Halacha 5 says that even wearing some kind of wear or dress wear or armor or weapon is not considered if it's unless it's something that is just for men, and therefore if there's a handgun that is specifically for women, designed for women, or that women are also used to carrying, then there is no prohibition. Rav Herzl Yehuda Henkin wrote in Techumin, which is a publication of Machon Tzomet, that even that's because in our days women use a weapon in the army, even though it's not according to the agreement of Chachamim. Going back to what we said yesterday, sometimes the Chachamim do not protest something that is regular practice. And so, going back to the Parsha, 12,000 men were instructed to go and attack the Midianites, and their mistake, according to the Pshat, was that they brought back some of the women that were participating in this act of seducing Jewish men, and so women and men are allowed to carry a gun on Shabbat, even in a place that there's no eruv, because it's part of their body, part of their body and dress, and they're not likely to remove it, as we saw yesterday, to show somebody, because you don't exactly show around your guns. It's not that's not a Jewish practice, as far as I know, and we used to, argue about which gun is better in the army service, but in every camp in Israel, every army camp is a proper eruv because it's surrounded by a fence, and so the whole place is considered eruv chatzarot, and that is also one of the jobs of the rabbi to make the eruv chatzarot, and maybe one day we won't need any of this, like that prophecy of Isaiah. And we'll stop here. We'll open up for questions.